How we doing today, Gotcha Gang? Kawaii50 here with another FGO video today. Talk about another servant from the 10 million downloads pickup summon, Mordred Rider. Surfer Mordred, Surf Mo, whatever. Now, Gotcha Gang, let me start this video by saying that I respect your time. I really do. So, I mean, for Surfer Mordred, I could have done just a regular video where I go over her stats, go over every little thing piecemeal. But Surf Mo's got a reputation. Surf Mo does one thing very, very good. So I've just decided to bridge this video a little bit, go over what Surf Mo does and exactly how she is able to do it so well. So we'll get a couple of basic things out of the way for people who are actually looking for a good way to build their Surf Mo if they end up pulling her from this gacha for the very first time. And then we're going to go into exactly how Overkill plays such a massive role in what makes Surfer Mordred so good. So I know some of you out there might be wondering how you should level Surfer Mordred's skills if you've just pulled her for the first time. So I'm just going to go ahead and list them really quick on the side of the screen, top to bottom, in the order you should level them by priority. So your first priority is going to be Cerulean Ride, rank A. Your second skill you need to level is Endless Summer, rank B. And then the skill that is least important to level is Rodeo Flip, rank A+. That is 1, 3, 2. Nice and simple for you. So if you're unaware, what makes Surfer Mordred so strong is that she is an arts-type servant with the ability to loop her own Noble Phantasm by herself. That's right, she can farm doors by herself. She can beat down hordes of enemies by herself. She has the potential to do that. And that is actually thanks to her Noble Phantasm. It's first building up to her Noble Phantasm that's the rough part. Once you get the train going, Mordred doesn't stop surfing until everybody is dead. Now, Noble Phantasm is Pridwin Tube Riding, rank A. It deals 450% to 750% damage to all enemies depending on level. And on overcharge, it has a chance to decrease the charge, which is the Noble Phantasm, of all enemies by 50 to 90%. Now, the big reason Mordred is able to do this is because of how Overkill functions, in addition to how her arts cards gain arts generation, as well as the different supports she can have set up. So let me begin by prefacing this with it is far easier to do this the higher your Surfer Mordred's Noble Phantasm level is. The higher the Noble Phantasm is, the more damage it deals. The more damage it deals, the more damage it's going to deal getting you to Overkill. And the more damage you deal while in Overkill, the better a chance you're going to have to loop Surfer Mordred's Noble Phantasm. So I know card order, how card order plays out, what the stats are effectively for card order are not necessarily something a lot of casual players dig into, but it's something that's very important when it comes to using Surfer Mordred effectively. To start with, your first card bonus is what's really important. I'm going to chuck them all up here so you can get a look at each of them. But what's important for Mordred is the Arts card bonus, which grants a 100% increase in NP generation rate for all subsequent cards that follow. And Noble Phantasms trigger this. Noble Phantasms do not benefit by being the second or third card in the chain, but if they are the first card in a chain, they activate this bonus and they give it to all subsequent cards. Now, I'm not going to calculate and deep dive on the math, but if I show you an arts chain with an NP rate, you can sort of get an idea of how this ends up going crazy for Surfer Mordred. So Surfer Mordred has at base a 0.71% NP gain rate. And if you look at the general NP rate for arts cards, the first art card in a chain will grant you a 300% boosted NP rate. Second card, 450%. And third card gives you a whopping 600%. This is not the card augmented by having an arts card as the first thing in your chain. So you're going to be tacking an additional 100% on top of that. That is where we start to get this basis for Mordred being able to do these insane NP loops. But more of this even comes into play when you finally push your enemy into overkill. Because when you overkill an enemy, for each hit you do after the enemy hits 0 HP, you end up gaining additional stars and additional NP off of those hits. Now, I'm not quite sure off the top of my head what the exacting amount is for what you gain off of overkill, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that it was a 50% additional gain. If you know the actual value and it's not 50%, please go ahead and let people know down in the comments if they're interested in the exact math. But barring the exact math, it's the fact that you gain additional NP off of that ends up making Rider Mordred get some crazy NP loops in there. And it's so easy to gain this much off of overkill because Rider Mordred's Noble Phantasm hits a whopping 5 times. And you're gaining additional stars and additional NP off of each one of those hits. It's crazy, gang. It's nuts. So yes, you'll want to give Rider Mordred your Tamamo no Mai's, your Lanling Wangs, your Paracelsus von Hohenheim's post-strengthening quest, because all of these characters are going to give her the arts boost that she needs to gain that extra NP gain. And all of these characters, I would recommend giving them, say, a fragment of 20-30, because those stars are going to feed into Rider Mordred's cards. Rider Mordred's cards are then going to crit, and those crits are going to grant Rider Mordred, again, extra NP gain. You can sort of see how this all ends up perpetuating itself. And Lanling Wang in particular has a 60% chance to increase your ally's star drop rate as well as their critical strength. So we can end up not only giving Mordred a chance to generate some own extra stars, but she can also give her a chance to increase her own critical strength and deal some extra damage after her Noble Phantasm if it doesn't manage to kill somebody, which you better hope that's the last wave, because if it's not, you're probably not NP looping. Now, as for what craft essence to give Mordred, that's going to entirely depend on how good the team you have backing her up is, how good those skill levels are leveled up, how strong they are in general. Since Mordred relies on them so much, you need to make up for whatever weaknesses they have in order to make Mordred reliably NP spam. So, if your skill levels are low, I've got to definitely recommend a Kaleidoscope or the Imaginary Element. These will give Mordred a solid little starting boost, give her a chance to NP without having to rely on anybody else to charge her gauge, and then she can just rely on the rest of her team for arts card boosts and NP gain boosts, so she can reliably NP loop after the fact. Now, after your team ends up getting a little bit stronger and a lot more reliable, I've got to recommend you just go full NP damage to ensure that you end up overkilling at all times. So you can, of course, always go with Golden Sumo. This will grant you a little bit of starting NP charge, but also grant her a flat attack boost to deal that extra damage. There is, of course, Drunk Jalter, Holy Night Supper, as it is called. This grants a really good bit of damage. It's something I use on Jalter routinely, and it works very well on Mordred Rider as well. Though, if you have your team completely set, completely ready to go, you know they're going to be able to charge Mordred's NP reliably at the very beginning of the fight, then I've definitely got to recommend that you give her the Black Grail. If she's NP looping in 3 turns, the fight is gonna be over. You're gonna reliably deal all the damage you need to loop, and that is just basically the perfect storm when it comes to Mordred Rider. And that's really all I got for you. Mordred Rider is already a little bit of a legend in the community, so I kind of wanted to go about this a little differently, show you some of the under-the-hood numbers that end up making Mordred Rider as good as she is, rather than going over each of her skills individually, each of her stats individually. The whole community knows what she does, she's legendary at what she does, why should I bother trying to say any different? It's facts, people. We can't argue with the facts. It's just wrong. But if you've been reliably looping with Mordred Rider for a very long time, I want to know down in the comments below. What sort of team do you build around her in order to make her as effective as she can possibly be? If you haven't pulled Mordred Rider yet, are you planning to try and go for her on the 10 million downloads pickup summon? Go ahead and of course let me know about that down in the comments as well. I will not be. I have an NP2 Francis Drake for some reason, so I've just been kind of using her on my door farming team. I know it's not a looping team, but I'm pretty content when it comes to AoE riders at this moment in time. Plus, I got Achilles. He's gonna be my boy for the rest of time. Anyways, this is Kawaii50, hoping you have a phenomenal day, and I'll see y'all in the next one.